Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome once again to another installment in if GBO2, sorry, if AU units were added to GBO2. That already started in a great way, but either way, today, as always, we're going to be adapting AU units to GBO2. Along with me is obviously, as always, my co-host. Say hello, Alter.
Howdy, folks.
And today we're going to be talking about two units that probably will take you by surprise in how we're thinking of pulling them off. The G Self, base G Self, without any of its packs, and the Age effects. Again, two more units from the survey. Your thoughts on any of these two units?
It is worth noting that, obviously we could tackle the various packs of the G Self, and also we could look at, any one of the myriad other versions of the Age, and even just adjacent units from the series. But these were the specific ones that were singled out in the survey. The survey didn't specify, any of the packs for the G Self, so it just makes sense if we're going by the units singled out in the survey to do these versions of these things.
And that is correct. Now, we're going to be starting off by with a unit that, from what you've told me quite a few times, you don't really have much experience with.
No, not a whole lot. Age is one of the few things that has Gundam in front of it that I have not watched yet. It's one of those things that just keeps getting put off. Like, it's not for a lack of wanting to see it. If anything, I'm kind of curious just because everybody says it's so terrible, but I have also, for better or worse, I think, well, not even for better or for worse, for worse, I think people in this fandom have a tendency to write things off too quickly. Like, I know, 0083, without making a whole tangent about it, just as an example, 0083 is something to me that, it doesn't immediately conform to what people expected of it, so they just discredit it so quickly, and I think that's such a shame. So I've wondered, is Age a similar sort of victim of that rigidity? So I've wanted to check out the series, finally get around to it. I think I'm going to do that over this next month, actually, just because, we've been discussing this, and it's like, why not at this point? Like, no time like the present.
Exactly. Uh, to start off
I will say it's a
this.
very cool design, though.
Oh yeah. Also, I realized that I confused two of my stats here, which is really funny in comparison to what we were talking about last time. Either way, the age effects. Now, this unit, we've been struggling to come up with a good idea, but I think that we finally have something to work on with. So let's begin with the simple stuff. It's a 700 cost general, 4-star, as we said that it's going to be with the most of these units thus far. It can go both to ground and space. 20,000 HP, 20 ballistic, 20 80 beam, and 30 melee resistance, 40 range strength, 30 melee strength, 135 movement speed, 215 top speed, 75 thruster gauge, and 75 turning speed. Now, we haven't added the melee priority in the rest of the stats because we have decided that pretty much it should be done here because this will require a bit of brainstorming as a mobile suit overall.
I think for melee priority, given how loaded we know the kit is going to be, you can be a little bit more conservative with that and go with probably just 2, because
Yeah,
3
that's what
might
I
be
was thinking
pushing
as
it.
well.
Like,
So
I think you could make a case just kind of logistically for melee priority 3, but also, I don't know if we should go that far. This seems a little overdoing it.
So, for a counter, I was thinking of giving it something that you don't see often in 700s, and that is the counter where the enemies pick up the enemy mobile suit and slam it on the ground, aka good old
That's my
ground
favorite.
slam.
Yeah, it's my favorite default counter animation. I wish it was better. I wish it stunned for longer, because the body slam is easily my favorite generic counter in the game. Like, it's not even close. Every time I see it, I get so hyped for that.
The reason why I think is because of how high its damage is.
That's fair, I guess. Yeah.
For a special counter, I honestly thought that it would be. You were watching the animations with me. I was showing you earlier, but I thought it would be the one where the funnels spin around um, the age effects.
Just kind of blender them.
Yeah, and just pretty much ram like a melee funnel slam attack, I guess you could say, kind of like the moons.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Plus, like, it's another. I've mentioned this a lot in the previous adapting AU units videos, but having something similar that already exists in the game to kind of use as a jump-off point, I feel like is really important to smoothly transitioning to non-UC units in this game. Like, I think having that little bit of familiarity is like, oh, like, we're still keeping this in the spirit of GBO, the tradition of GBO. It's still the same game. We're just kind of broadening the borders a little bit.
Yeah, and we can be a bit more lenient. Now, for the parts. The parts will actually surprise you to what I hadn't thought. Because this is gonna be already a pretty solid unit. You don't want to focus too much on its speed or anything. Because you notice I put an equal amount of medium and long range, but a relatively low amount of close. Because you're gonna want to either figure out if you wanna go with melee or if you wanna go with speed.
I feel like allowing people to have the full suite of just, melee enhancement level 5 all the way down to level 1 on a unit like this would just be absolutely silly. So yeah, I agree with that. I agree with gating the close range parts more heavily than medium or long.
So, as you can see, pretty much the general idea is just keeping it relatively tame in comparison to other units of the same, cost. So, for it's actually the parts, now that I think about it, are closer to something like the Doven Wolf rather than anything else, either you believe it or not.
Huh, I hadn't really thought about that.
I think the parts for the Doven Wolf at level 3 are 12, 19, and 21. Yeah, I was correct. I had it to my right, so I went to check.
I can see that.
So the reason why to that is we're gonna explain it as we move forward. Now, so for the Stangle, sorry, I forget that that's the name of it. I used to call it a Stans rifle for so long. It's so funny now.
I mean, unless I'm missing some kind of reference here, or I'm just like too culturally ignorant to know what the hell it's referring to. Stungle isn't a word, so I mean, it's dealer's choice. Is it Stungle? Is it Stungle? Is it Stungly? Like, I mean, okay, the last one's kind of shit posty, obviously, but like, you get my point. Like, what the fuck is a Stungle? You know?
It's gonna make you stungle over your words.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what I was gonna do with the Stangle rifle is we've seen it every time it gets used to be a high output beam launcher, right? It's not a beam rifle, this one, just a beam launcher outright.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna do is I was gonna give it a bit more power, make it hit based, have a long cooldown and have a long overhit, a long focus, and make it an instant and a heavy stagger. So charge normal shot is an instant, charge shot is a heavy stagger. Pretty straightforward. Imagine kind of like the GBO2's beam bazooka.
God, I love the GBO2 beam bazooka.
So imagine something like this.
Can I just say, as a very quick aside, just because it's, I guess, tangentially relevant, I think the GBO2 is probably, like, maybe the best case in this entire game of, like, a unit that really plays to the fantasy of what it is in the series that it's depicted in. Like, the Beam Bazooka GBO2 more so than the MLRS. The MLRS is kind of like a neat little what-if spin on it, but, like, just in general, they made the GBO2, like, playing it really makes you feel like you're playing that unit from 0083, and I feel like that's kind of, I'm hoping that's what we can accomplish with all of these AU units we're adapting. But like, to me, that's like the benchmark. That's like, or not the benchmark, I guess, but the gold standard of like doing this right, really nailing that translation from the series to the game.
I gotta agree with that, honestly. Now, Arm Beam Saber, I wasn't gonna give it anything crazy, right? It's just literally an Arm Beam Saber until, you know, the effects mode. I'm not aiming to give it anything insane. Tell me if you think that is unfair or if it is fair.
I mean, I think this thing has enough insane just kind of inherently. Like, if we're covering all of our bases, like, doing this thing any justice whatsoever, it's already going to be kind of insane. So, yeah, I agree with that. I think we can afford to be, played a lot safer with a lot of the base weapons. We don't need to get too flashy with any of them.
Again, Arm Beam Saber is gonna get the same treatment that the most 700 4-star generals do. 2900 power, 2.5 second cooldown. That's that. No charge because, yeah. Now, the Daedal Bazooka. Now, that's a name again, Daedal Bazooka.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, I feel like this is a reference to something. I don't know what the hell it would be. Nobody seems to know, so at least I'm not alone in that.
So, the Daedal Bazooka was pretty much an attachment to the Stangle rifle, right?
Okay.
So, I was gonna do it as a single shot death beam that builds up stun rather than it's a normal stun and a build up stun at the same time.
Everybody loves death beams in this game.
But you have to focus.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I mean, you don't want too many just like plug and go weapons on a unit like this.
So I was gonna make it 1500 power, and it hits, I don't know, 5 times, maybe 6 times, right?
Okay.
Cooldown none because it overhits in one shot. Reload, I'll give it 70 seconds. Range is gonna be 550, similarly to the Delta Chi. And the focus time is gonna be 8 seconds to make it relatively, just pretty much to fall in place with the rest. And the build-up stun is gonna be per shot from the hits, because it fires 6 hits back to back, 40%. So
are we going to allow this to focus while moving, though?
Well, it's gonna be a slower general than most at 215 speed.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, that's my answer. I'd say yes because it's slower than most, even in boosting. But that's until it hits its FX mode, obviously.
I mean, as an added detail or something that's important to consider is that, like, obviously taking something that's like a big death beam and introducing the ability to focus while moving, like we're considering it like the I'm stumbling all over my words, but the Bruno Gun Kai of the Angelo comes to mind here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, on some level, that distinction, just going from like you can't move while focusing this to you can move while focusing this, is pretty insane. But you got to consider this is also a general. People are going to be expecting you to like frontline and push and maintain pressure. So it's not like when you play something like the Angelo and you can kind of sit in the back and just sort of like just scoot around while you charge this thing up and pick the opportune moment to let it rip. Like 8 seconds of doing nothing for a general is a lot. And if you get staggered at any point during those 8 seconds, it's all for nothing. So it's like, I think that kind of gates it. That keeps it from being too obnoxious.
That, and it's also not a heavy stagger, so it's just an instant or a 40% build-up stun, which means that the raid that just boosts through it does not get stunned instant.
Yeah, that is really important to note, actually, because a heavy stagger, the minute that contacts you, you're just going down.
Yeah.
No matter what your situation is.
So, it's stop to shoot, obviously. It's self-explanatory. You're not going to be firing it while moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, sea funnels. The sea funnels are shown to have a lot of abilities, so I'm going to start off with the basic one. Launch. Nothing too special. It's going to work like the psychoplates of the Moon Gundam. The difference is that they do only 1000 damage because look at the amount of. Let's look at the amount of C funnels there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think we can see 10 at least. Right?
Right.
So I'm gonna just type down times 10. Whereas the psychoplates of the Moon Gundam do 1500 times 8. The cooldown is gonna be about the same, but because it's more of them, it kind of works like a shotgun. It's gonna have 12-second reload, one single attack. Wait, I said this cooldown is always bothering. 12
I
second
almost wonder
reload.
if we could lower it to like 800 or 900 actually.
No, because then it will do a lot less than the Moon.
I suppose, but the Moon's plates are kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is why I'm giving it less range in the long run.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
And it's gonna have a build-up stun of. I mean, the Moon stuns. We have 10 of them. I'll give it a 25%. The reason why is because if it flies like the Moon's funnels, they're a lot smaller, so the chance to hit is a lot lower.
I guess that is a good point. The hitbox on the Moon's plates is a pretty big factor.
So sea funnels defend, right? It's
Right.
literally just a barrier. So I'm not even sugarcoating it. It's literally just a barrier.
It's basically the new Gundam's fin funnel barrier.
Yep. But I had one more in mind. One that will surprise you. We've seen it happen with the new spin funnel. So what if we have a C funnels support that are attached to an ally, right? They have a power of 250. They have an attack sequence of 1 second. 100% hit rate. 15-second cooldown. 350 range so that you have to deploy it to a relatively nearby ally. And no build-up, no stun. No build-up stun, right? Nothing.
Yeah, because that would get out of hand really fast.
But retain stun.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
The reason why is the way that they're gonna work is that you attach them to an ally, kind of like the Hainu does, and every time
Right.
that your ally either melees or shoots, those little funnels are gonna just fly 5, 4, it doesn't matter how many of them, and they're gonna just constantly poke at the enemy.
Yeah.
So nothing too special.
It's free damage.
Yeah, outright. And I think that pretty much covers it for now.
I think a good way to look at tools like that, like for the Hainu or for this, is that it's sort of similar to what the Nightingale and I guess now the Gaimalk have going for them with the place your funnels in an area and it does damage in the area and so on. But in this case, the area is an ally. Like your area can move. So that's really the best way to look at it, I think,
Yep.
is that it's just a more flexible version of that.
Now, let's begin with our skills and everything. So let's begin straightforward. We're gonna have a lot of skills for this unit to make it interesting. So we're gonna give it a melee composite system level 1, so that we will pretty much ignore high performance balancer and 2 swings. We don't need anything more for this unit.
No, you don't. I think it's it's got enough going for it as it is.
High spec AMBAC.
Probably level 2, I think.
Yep. Force injector level 3. Maneuver armor on level 1. I'll give it a single damage control as well.
Yeah.
Anti-blast stabilizer. Because at this point, if you don't have that as a general in this cost, good luck.
Well, especially if we're gonna incorporate its infamous hedgehog mode.
A single power accelerator level 1. And let's give it an emergency evasion system. Level 1. As you notice, a lot of level 1, so it's not really anything flashy yet. What I will give it though, because it has pretty large legs, I'll give it like shock absorber.
I think that's reasonable.
I'll give it 3 because in this cost you kind of need it. It's not gonna be level 4 like the Hainu, for an example, has. That is a bit absurd.
I don't know
What?
why it has that.
Level 4 force injector. That's why. Flight control program level 3 as well. Now, we've seen a few units, you know, get a few skills that are usually raid-like. I was thinking of giving it assault booster at least level 1.
Yeah. I mean, they are starting to blur that line more as time goes on. Didn't they just add a general that has the assault booster?
No. Not yet.
What was it? What was the ability they had? I'm blanking on this.
Fall prevention system.
That's what it was. Yes. So I mean, yeah, like I think it's only a matter of time before we have, like, I would say in the next at some point in the next 6 months we will have a general that has a heavy attack. Like, just give it time.
So I'm gonna give it full attack, which is the skill that every time you unleash your quote-unquote psycho-mu weapons, your damage gets increased, and because it has so many quote-unquote psycho-mu weapons, it works, right?
Right.
Let's be honest, there is no point in this. I'm thinking of giving it a skill. It's we're gonna call it the effects burst mode. Now, for its famous or infamous hedgehog mode, I was thinking we activated it to low health. Not 50% like we have in most units, but 40% because of how much it's gonna give it.
Yeah, it will be pretty insane. So I think.
So we're gonna type down that it activates at 40% health. Actually, I'll type it like this for a shorter writing.
Makes sense.
It grants, let's say, a plus 30. Yeah, I'd say a plus 30 melee strength. I'm being very hesitant to give it a lot of melee strength because seeing what they did with the full armor double zero is kind of scary with a plus 50 in biosensor.
Yeah, that gets out of hand real fast. And plus, like, with what this is gaining in FX burst mode compared to what the full armor double zeta gets utility wise, I think that would just be kind of silly.
So if you notice, I'm not giving it actual speed, I'm giving it top speed. And I'm
Yeah,
giving it
I don't
one,
think it needs any more speed.
I am giving it one where it's generous enough to become a bit on the faster end of generals in 700. I'm gonna give it a plus 15 turning speed to make it on par with a few other units. I'm gonna give it 50% less gauge usage. And I'm gonna give it weapon changes.
That makes sense.
That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm gonna give it the FX high performance counter program. Now you may be thinking, why it's on unique counter program? Well, actually it might interest you. at 50% HP. Unlock special counter. Only usable when C funnels are docked.
I mean, that makes sense if the animation is going to utilize them. Plus, it kind of makes you be a little more conscious of what weapons you're using and when.
Exactly.
I think more engagement is, I won't say always good, but generally good.
Now, what I'm gonna do is during FX mode, actually, I'm gonna give some skill upgrades. So the maneuver armor is gonna go level 2. Nothing too major.
Yeah, nothing crazy.
Force injectors is gonna be level 4 because we saw how insane it gets during FX mode, during its hedgehog mode.
Yeah.
And one thing that will surprise you is level 2 power accelerator during FX. It won't really stop it from dealing with generals, sorry, with the raids, but. And the evasion, it's gonna be level 3 during FX burst, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give it 2 last skills that it gains during FX mode, unless I'm forgetting one skill that I want to give it, which is a very plausible thing. I've been having those issues as of late.
I've been having those issues as of always.
Now, this skill will surprise probably a few people, but ram attack during FX burst. So during FX burst, because of it becoming literally a beam hedgehog, getting hit by it will, well, it will
It'll deal
damage you.
damage.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, nothing too extreme. But it's gonna be funny for the people that do not expect it to suddenly start boosting. Now, it could be a different skill that's gonna be similar to the Phoenix, where you cannot use anything but your Vulcans or your sea funnels. But, it's same old, I guess you could say in some way. And finally, during FX mode, because, we still need to fill in one last slot. What do you think we should give it during FX mode?
I mean, Jesus, what doesn't it already have? Let's think about this. Huh. I'm blanking, actually. I'm looking at the list and I'm like, what jumps out at me as, like, something that's not already on here for just a well-rounded 700 general that's kind of melee leaning in sort of the same way this is obvious, I guess.
It could be a little bit fun and just give it like something like a frontline support system, because the pilot always was very helpful of his allies.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It feels a little bit basic, I suppose, but
So I'm gonna give it because it's so basic. I'm gonna give it as a normal skill,
you could do that too.
and take away the during effects. So there we have it. For the weapon changes, my thought was that the arm beam saber literally just becomes 2 beam sabers. That's literally the only change.
I think that's reasonable, because, I mean, we have seen it use both of them.
So times 2 during effects, and the damage literally just goes up to 3,200, and the melee cooldown goes to 2 seconds. That's literally it.
I'm on board with that.
And I'll type here. I need to make the color of the letter visible. FX burst. And I think that covers it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's it. Actually wound up being less loaded than I thought it would, because the entire time we were going on the list of like stuff we want to add to this, all I could think was hedgehog mode, hedgehog mode, hedgehog mode. Like that's something that, just based on how it's depicted in other games and even just like the bit of age that I have seen, is kind of insanely over the top, like G Gundam levels of ridiculous. Maybe
Yeah,
not quite G Gundam, but getting
it,
there.
its mobility is absurd, which is why I decided to tone it down a bit to be able to fit in with GBO2, but I still gave it a major amount of mobility once it's in FX mode. Once in FX mode, it gains a much stronger melee weapon, it gets a melee increase, gets mobility increased, less thruster gauge usage, and pretty much new skills. Overall, it just makes it be a lot more aggressive, and people, oh, forgive me, people will probably enjoy using it as a basic frontlining, uh, well, general. I think that's all that really it is. Now, I was thinking that I could give it a bit more stun build up for the C funnels because I just realized it doesn't have any Vulcans or anything like that. So I could lower the C funnel launch to like 8 seconds or 10 seconds. It might appear like absurd, but honestly, when you look at it, you realize that it doesn't really have any suppression of weapons.
No, it doesn't. You don't have any Vulcans to switch to when you just need that little bit of extra push to get somebody to full stagger.
So I'd say that the idea of lowering its, yeah, the C funnels launch being lower than expected, I think will work greatly in its favor. Because a majority of its weapons are situational, like the Daedal bazooka and the support funnels.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So overall, that will make the C funnels launch to be quite effective. Gives it a playstyle similar to a ranged Moon Gundam until the FX burst activates, which then you become a lot more aggressive, and the buffs just keep on coming. And I think that covers the age effects. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it.
Would you play it by any chance or not?
I think it has one too many eyes for me to play it. That's
Too many
no. I mean,
eyes?
as much as I try to skew towards the kind of Xeonic designs where wherever possible, I do play some things that aren't exclusively in that category. I mean, I like the Full Armor 7th actually a lot at 700. I like both versions of the GPO2 at really every cost you can play them at. The MLRS especially, it's a very unique type of support. But no, I can see myself playing this. I mean, it's an interesting kit, so I'd at least want to try it out. It's I do tend to like the sort of like all-rounded but somewhat melee leaning generals at higher costs. Like, I mean, this is obvious one of my favorite things in this entire game.
That is good to know. Are you ready to move on to the next one? And this one we had a bit of a talk for in advance to make things interesting.
Yeah, I think it was kind of necessary because it's a very esoteric sort of unit.
The G-Self. No packs, no nothing. Just the base G-Self. Now, many people will say, base G-Self? What would that have that would make it good enough?
That was my thought.
Exactly. You think that the G-Self does not have much going on for it, but you'll see that even as a 600 trade, we might even have to up the cost by the end of this and make it a 650. We should go look back by the time that we're done. What do you think?
Yeah, it's entirely possible we'll have to. Although I feel like you could also just like... It's the kind of thing where you could balance it somewhat by making it a little bit squishier. I mean, I say that, but then you have the Titania, which is... or the Psychozaku Mark II, neither of which seem like they're gated too heavily by being on the squishy side, but still, I mean, it's one route you could take. Maybe it would seem like it's enough. We'll see.
Now, the G-Self, I had a lot of ideas for, because it's shown that it can do a lot of things. Let's begin by the basics. 20,000 HP, 24 ballistic, 25 beam, 24 melee resistance, 20 range strength, 40 melee strength, 140 movement speed, 235 top speed, 80 thruster gauge, and 70 turning speed with a melee priority of 3, a counter special of a punch and a kick for a normal one, and a double beam saber slash with a spin, as seen in one of the movies for its special counter. 20 close, 14 medium, and 10 long range slots. And it comes with a beam rifle, double beam saber, head Vulcans, and a blow and kick, which is gonna be literally just a melee with bare hands and legs. So let's begin with the weapon, shall we? Now,
Sounds good.
let's start with the beam rifle. I had an idea where the beam rifle will have a 1250 power. You may be thinking, isn't that kind of low? Well, the reason I'm thinking this much is because of this. If you look really quickly, you'll see that already we have a cooldown of 0.8, an ammo hit rate of 25%, a reload of, I'll give it 17 seconds, a range of 350, a focus of 2.5 seconds, and here's where's the kicker. You may be thinking, already you've sprawled out a list. What are you intending to do? Well, we have a lot of beam rifles that break maneuver armor relatively quickly in the cost of 650 and 700.
Yeah.
What about a 600 raid that can do that as well? Because it's mostly been raids, surprisingly, that do that, if you've noticed thus far.
Come to think, yeah.
60% build-up stun, insta-stun when charged. The Asimar has something similar to that as well, ironically. I think it just has more hit rate than this, and probably a lot more damage because it's the Asimar.
Yeah, it is a more limited kit, so it kind of needs to squeeze more damage out of the options that it has, sort of like the Stein at 700.
But what do you think from this alone thus far?
I mean, it's interesting. It's I feel like especially with the G Self being kind of ostensibly bare bones, like it's more visually plain to look at. It's like, well, why am I going to play this? Like, why would I play this over something that looks similar in function? Because I mean, to the uninitiated, that's going to be a concern. So I feel like having a little more character in its mostly basic kit would be a good way to make that case. Sort of like how the Alex has a very unique beam rifle for what it is, which sets it apart from its contemporaries.
That is pretty correct. Let's begin up next with something that will probably shock you. Double beam sabers, 2800 power. That sounds pretty high, doesn't it? Well, the reason why is because the whole thing and the whole gimmick that I thought it would be working with this unit is, well, it's how aggressive it's gonna have to be with its melee to get anywhere done. Because if you notice, its range strength is just a mere 20. Heck, even the Atlas with its two melee weapons and its absurd, ranged and melee capabilities, it still has, what is it, like 13 and 30 ranged and melee strength and 600. Whereas this is 20 and 40, it's gonna have to be a lot more aggressive with its melee than its range. Now, for its melee weapon, I'm gonna give it a 3-second charge. We talked about this a lot, but I thought the double beam sabers would be the iconic spinning the blades and then extending them into the double hyper beam sabers into a vertical strike. It's gonna be a long animation which will do a lot of damage, but also it will give people a high amount of chances to counter it.
Right.
I'd say that's pretty fair, don't you think?
I think so, yeah. Sort of like the why am I blanking on this? The Gear Zulu EH. I play it. Why am I struggling to remember it? Jesus Christ.
It happens. Now, the head vault. I want them to be good. Because again, a pretty limited kit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, you can make the Stein parallel, right? Like, the Stein has absolutely disgusting Vulcans.
So I'm gonna give it 120 rounds. 60. Oh, not cool, zero cooldown.
60 cooldown.
60 rounds. That would be funny as heck. But I'll give it 12 seconds reload, which is long for Vulcan, and 175 range. Just 25 of higher than most.
Yeah, you gotta pay somewhere for Vulcans that powerful.
And 5% build up stuff. So already, as you can see, it's getting somewhere.
Yeah, I like it.
And finally, the blow and kick combo. This is gonna be on the lower end of 2300 power. Cooldown of 3.5 seconds. The reason why I thought of this is the blow and kick is gonna be a heavy stagger.
Oh, I mean, I guess, yeah, similar. You look at like the Alex CA, for instance. It punches you, you crumple over.
Yep. But it will also have another charge, which this charge is gonna be 4.5 seconds, which is gonna be the powerful punch into kick combo that it did in the series, where pretty much it sent that mobile suit flying, that unnamed mobile suit that we always forget about.
Yeah, fair enough. There is a precedent for it.
So already, as you can see, the weapons are normal relatively in comparison to other things. But there are a few gimmicks that can work with. For an example, the double beam sabers do a lot of damage, but they are really easy to counter. The blowing kick does again quite a decent chunk of damage, but also you're gonna have to line it up because after the first hit, you're gonna start knocking them down. So after knocking them over, I think that the high kick follow-up will be a bit difficult to land unless it's a larger mobile suit or like a Zamal or a Zok. You know, something on the larger side overall. So you're gonna have to be smart already with your weapon, even on your heavy attacks. Let's begin at the skills, right? Since the raid, Assault Booster level 3. Nothing too extreme, I'd say, thus far. High performance
Not really,
balancer.
no.
You may be thinking, why balancer and not, you know, the melee combo? Because, well, the melee combo controller is going to be level 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense because, again, limited kit.
Maneuver armor 3. High spec comeback because it's in flying in space without its backpack on many of occasions. Emergency evasion system. Level 3. You know, double dodge roll, but with, you know, a minor... you know, so I guess you could say less usage of thruster gates. Force injector level 3.
Yeah.
Anti-blast stabilizer. Oh, I forgot to make it level 1. There we go. And counter boost. And high performance counter. Level 2. So already, a very nice list, I'd say, overall.
Yeah, it's a pretty good bevy of skills for... It's what you,
Actually,
more or less what you expect to see from something like this.
I'll give it also Power Accelerator level 2, because again, it's a very speedy unit. It's always seemed to be a very speedy unit.
Yeah, it's fairly nimble. It is very streamlined, so I mean, that feels kind of on brand. What you see is what you get.
Exactly. Now, I had an idea of a few skills that we could give it. If it helps at all. Very often the G-Self is shown to have abilities similar to units with Psycho Frame. And it was made by Tomino as an excuse of it happens in quote-unquote late UC, or it happens after the Universal Century itself has ended. Therefore, we can still follow the same concept of technology as Minovsky drives in the following. Same with
Yeah.
Psychoframe. So, because every time we hear it, we hear just Succord, this is gonna be its ability boost. Level 1. Which is gonna be available after 60% health. As a usable weapon. Like an NTD.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Special weapon button. So it doesn't activate instantly, meaning that if it doesn't activate and you're not careful to activate it, you will suffer the side effects because either that or I just will have it at 60% HP left overall. It activates, it doesn't matter. The reason why I'm thinking of that is because it doesn't really do much other than give you a few skills and a few power-ups. So, what will it do? Plus 15 melee. Nothing major, right? In comparison to what we've seen up until now. Plus
Yeah, with the
5
base melee strength it has, I think that's okay.
plus 5 speed. Plus 5 top speed. So it's a 7. 30% less gauge uses. So, again, lower than most other units. Correct?
Right.
And new skills. That's it. Nothing extreme, I'd say again. No new weapons.
Yeah,
No
it's
new thing. So it's
just a scaled down NTD, right?
just without the activation part, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the thing I will give it to make it a bit more on the interesting side is I'm gonna make it have level 3 melee combo controller. Oh, during Succord. And it will get also Force Injector level 4 during Succord. So already it's not many skills, but if we look over here, I've written a few special equipment and abilities, and one of them is the Photon Armor, which it's seen that it can use without the need of its pack.
Yeah.
Which the Photon Armor, I'm gonna make it kind of like a reverse anti-melee armor. Sorry, anti-beam coding. So during Succord,
Activates at low health instead of higher health. Okay.
Yep. You gain plus 40% beam resistance and reduce stagger buildup plus lower stagger level. That's the best way to put it. So already this skill on its own makes up for it not giving that many skills. What it will also give is optimized cooling efficiency. So again, it's nothing too extreme, I'd say.
Yeah, it's not that wild.
And I'm gonna even make it a level 1. And the last part that it's gonna... Actually, you know what? I should have probably given this. Put the face armor here. I forgot to give it flight control program.
That would not hurt.
So there we have it. These are pretty much what skills I'm thinking to give it. And I'd say that we can keep it at 600 if we lower a bit its health by like 2000, don't you think?
I think so, yeah. I don't think the kit is like that crazy for what it is. It's I mean, functionally it's kind of a little bit of a mix of like the Sinanju and like the Banshee, I guess, or really any of the unicorns, but like it's not really as crazy as those things either. I mean, like these are
Actually,
good primaries, but the Sanaju Stein's primaries are absolutely insane.
so here you go. I changed the optimized cooling efficiency with something slightly better, I'd say, and that's offense system.
Okay.
Uh, so I'd say that this overall is what my belief is that they would see for the G self as a base unit. Many people will say, but it's it's gonna be the poster boy, it's gonna be the entry to AIDS, so it should be a general. That's usually the argument, correct?
Uh Possibly, yeah. Although I'm not like I don't think everything has to be a general necessarily. Like there's no way every single one of the units in this survey should be a general, you know?
Exactly. But this is what we do with the G self, and honestly, I'd say with these current stats and these current overall performance, I'd say it's looking great, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting take.
I will
Almost
be honest.
reminds me sort of superficially of the Rigazi.
I will be honest. I would 100% play this.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, the best way to put it is that honestly, this kind of unit is what I do look for normal. The reason why it is melee units always clicked with me, and the melee unit that can be aggressive and especially so during lower health usually just gets me going. It's just a sudden pump of adrenaline that you're always saying like, what do I do now? I'm almost dead. Well, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna take a few people with me.
Yeah, sort of like the Delta Chi comes to mind.
Yes, and the Sinanju, and obviously the Bansi. A lot of raids come to mind as well. On top of that,
Yeah, fair enough.
but this pretty much covers the G self. Do you have any input on pretty much everything that has been talked about thus far?
No, I'd say this is all pretty robust for what these two units can do, especially the G self. I think we definitely squeezed more out of it than I would have initially expected.
And it still had a lot of plenty of abilities, like in Sukkot, it did so at least in the film that the beam sabers even turned like a golden color along with the golden resonance around it. So that was, honestly an interesting thing to look at, but there's no need sometimes for some things to be added. I think the double beam sabers staying as they are is perfectly fine by my standards. What do you think?
I think so, yeah. Actually, one thing I was considering, although this might be a bit much for 600, is we saw it fire the what the hell are those things on the legs called?
Oh,
The
the leg boosters, yeah.
That's what they are. Yeah, we saw them like eject them almost like the propellant tanks of the Stein,
Hmm.
and boy, it's easy to keep going back to that Stein well, I guess, for comparisons here, but it did do exactly that. It ejected them as just like improvised missiles, basically, in the same way.
Yeah. I'll be
So
honest,
that
when
seems like something you could potentially do.
I will be honest though, after I rewatched the scene, because I rewatched it a bit before we got on, I realized that that was not the G Self normal. It had already the perfect pack attachment, so I don't know if the actual G Self itself could do that or if it was a later upgrade.
Possibly, yeah. Although they look like it looked like it was the same component, so
Yeah, but they are a bit bulkier in the perfect pack. Regardless, I'd say that this kit is perfectly fine as is, especially since we've already filled the 16 slots.
yeah, that's true.
And honestly, adding more to this unit would guarantee, especially something like active pairs, would certainly uh, send it to 650, if not 700. Because this kit
Yeah, fair
having more
enough.
than one heavy stagger, one being a melee and the other being a once per life, but afterwards gives you mobility. Yeah, no.
That could be on the ridiculous side for sure.
exactly. So I'd say let's leave it as is, and maybe in the perfect pack we can think of putting that instead. Because the perfect pack, I can see it being a general. I will be honest. I don't think that it's gonna be a raid, although it could easily be a raid, honestly. But that's just me.
Maybe. I definitely, when I imagine the perfect pack, I think of either a general or kind of a very ridiculous full armor double zeta type of support.
Plus 50 melee strength. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say that pretty much covers both of them, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to call it.
Well, as always, people, thank you if you managed to sit through this. I wouldn't say quicker than normal, but it's under the hour, so I'd say it's quicker than normal video. If you
It's a little
haven't,
more trim at least.
yeah. If you've sat through us just rambling on, please hit the subscribe button. We'll do probably more of these as time goes on. Regardless, thank you if you sat through and watched us go, mostly me rambling through these two units right here. Either way, I hope that you all enjoyed, and we'll talk to you later. We'll see you on the battlefield.
Till next time.
Have a great day, as always.